Alright, continuing with our UV mapping video, I want to now go ahead and start moving around those planar projections we've created. So let's look at our window, UV editor, and we've got four planar projections. Now in your UV editor window, I haven't talked much about this, but anything that is isolated, when we did a projection, these faces were together, isolated from these. Those are in their own shell. So if I click this Move Shell tool, I can click and I can move this around as a group. And in the UV editor, you don't really want to select vertices. We're used to selecting vertices. If you left click, you want to click UVs, and the opposite is true in here. And when you're in the scene view, you don't want to usually select UVs here. You can select the UV shell and then move it here, but you don't want to really manipulate UVs in the scene view. You don't want to manipulate vertices in the UV view. But this is good for positioning. But to see what's really going on here, we're going to need to go ahead and apply a texture. Now I'm going to put a repeating texture I have created on the server for you guys to look at. And I want to talk about what a repeating texture is. So this is the image that I have. It's old barn wood. A repeating texture is a texture where if you were to take this same image, duplicate it, and put it right next to itself so that this edge of the new one is right here, you would not be able to tell that there's a new image placed there. That's a repeating seamless texture. I guess I can better demonstrate that if I pull this up in Photoshop. Okay. So I have an image, and in Photoshop I can go to my filter offset, and notice how I can move horizontally, and you never really can tell where it begins and where it ends. I've found another image. I just want to demonstrate the difference between a repeating texture and one that's not repeating. And when we repeat, what it does is it takes these pixels and brings them around. Offset. And you notice usually it's going to have a seam. Okay? Seaming is a big deal in texture, and if you're using things that are going to repeat or be scaled up or down, that's why the image I'm giving you is a seamless texture. That really helps a lot. Alright, with that being said, let's get back into Maya. Just note this is a seamless texture, which is going to help us tremendously. And when you search online for images, you can find seamless texture. Some you have to pay for, but I think there's some free ones out there too. So let's go ahead and create a new material for our house. I want to right click and create new material. I'm just going to create I don't want to blend. Well, once my blend is selected, I think I can take it to a Lambert here. I'm going to call this wall material. I'm going to connect to a file node. In the file, I'm going to select the folder and pull up on my desktop this natural barn wood. Open. Alright, so we put it, and with 6 selected, hit number 6 if you don't see a material, and you see our barn wood. It looks good. Notice how it does not line up on the edges here. And to understand what's going on, let's look in our UV texture map. So each one of these walls are kind of separated. I can select an edge here, and you can see this edge and this edge are the same. So I could go and take this guy and move it really close to this one down here, and you see they begin to line up. As I move this around, it's moving it around on that texture. And you see the texture in this quadrant, but you don't see it in the others. But what it is, it's repeated in each quadrant. Even if I take this way over here, it just keeps repeating. So your UV map can have parts of your object in different quadrants, but just know it's going to be one main image repeated throughout. That's so what we want to do is we want to try to line up these if we can. So let's start with we'll start with this one here, and the shell tool's not going to let me put it over another shell, which is fine. We'll move this shell out of the way, take our main one, spin this around, select that edge. So we may want to move this one next. And I'm just going to pull that down until these line up. And as you pull back and forth, you may get a better repeat, but I'm just lining these seams up here. These. Grab the next one. It's going to be on the back here. And to be able to move in here, it's the same as in the scene view. You can hit the W key. You can select your shell, hit W, and you can move. You can even scale and rotate. And let's see. Okay. And then let's go to our final one over here. Hit my shell tool. Pull this up. Zoom in a little bit. And there we go. Now they're all lined up. And it looks like we have a consistent board here. But I don't like the size of those planks. So what I want to do is, now that they're all lined up, I should be able to go and select all of the UVs here. And hit the R to scale, and I can scale down or I can scale up. And because it's repeating not only horizontally but up, and you notice how my house went out of this 0 to 1 space. However, because the next tile repeats up and down, that's okay. And you just kind of decide where you want to place that. Okay. Alright. I like that. I might take it up just here. And I like putting this bottom scene at the bottom. So we start off on a complete board. Something like that. And so that's how you would bring an image in and begin to scale it and move these shells around in the UV texture editor. Alright. In the next video, we're going to start looking at the roof and see what we can do there.